All right. And we should be live on YouTube. Let me give everybody a minute or two to come in, get settled down, sit around the cauldron, get your favorite drink so we can sit down and have a little chat. Hold on a minute. I'm going to pull up the chat. I'll sit around the cauldron. We're going to mute Paula over there. All right, and pop the chat out so I can see everything, the questions, if anybody has questions tonight. Welcome, everybody. Merry meet. Welcome to the Witch's Cauldron. I am so excited. This evening, I have my friends Shayde and Kindra Ravenmoon from Hail and Horns podcast. And if you guys remember, Shayde's been on my channel before. He does Flatline to Beatline podcast as well. Their channels are linked in the description box. Be sure to give them a subscribe before you leave. Want to say a few little hellos. We've got Dylan. We've got Morningstar. We've got Uber. Everybody, thank you for the top chat alert. Make sure you're on live chat so YouTube doesn't mess us up. And I want to, Spastic Monkey, yes, Eastern time zone. And we have Cindy Ravenmoon saying, hello, Sister Kindra.
Hey, Cindy.
And we have Sandy, we have Laura Lee, her first live. Welcome, welcome. If you guys have questions for either Shayde or Kindra, be sure to tag me so I can direct the question to them. I want to let my guests introduce themselves. So Kindra and Shayde. Kindra, if you would go first, just tell us a little bit about yourself and about your practice and about your channel here on YouTube.
All right. Well, my personal practice is by origin, it's traditional witchcraft that's based on folkloric witchcraft, but I mesh that in with my spirituality as a theistic Satanist. So that a theistic Satanist is one who actually views Satan and views any of the deities as being authentic and real. It's theist. And I mix this in with my practice of witchcraft. And this is what my channel is about. It's existing more or less to help seekers along the way within the left-hand path, especially within the realms of Satanism, and also maybe to spark some inspiration and motivation for those of us who are seasoned along the ways, and for anyone who's curious who wants to check it out. And this is the reason for my existence here on YouTube, aside from Hail and Horns that I have with Shayde.
And I have to say, you know, I did not know a whole bunch about Satanism until I found your channel, and you actually explained it to me in a way that made sense. So thank you to that.
Thank you.
I really appreciate that.
I'm so glad to hear.
And Shayde, tell us a little bit about yourself, darling.
Everybody knows me. Ain't that right? Let's do this. I've been a practicing traditional witch for almost 32 years now. I host a Flatline to Beatline. Been a heathen for about 2 years and 3 months now. And you know, I pretty much, you know, most everybody knows me by wearing a mask, and I just recently uncovered in order to get people, you know, get myself more out there. But, you know, just earlier this month, Flatline to Beatline was a year old. So not much to me, but I started up a YouTube channel that now my podcast is in video as well as audio. And then I put very short videos of different spell workings that are anywhere from 35 to 110 years old. That were passed down. So it's just bringing in different things, and there's going to be changes to the channel and to the podcast and all that. But Yeah. So, and then I, well, of course, co-host Hail and Horns with Kindra, which was a big thing that people wanted to see as a collaboration between us two, between us both. So that happened. So, and I'll throw a sneak peek because I believe it's next Friday. Paul is going to be on Hail and Horns. That's what I'm
right,
about, man.
We're going to be talking. We are going to be talking about unicorns farting glitter and other stuff that pisses us all off. So it's not all love and light, guys.
Yeah, I titled it "Railing Against the Rainbows."
There's no love and light, not in Hails and Horns.
And Sandy BJ says, yes, Kindra is good to explain things and make them easier to understand. I know she helps me a lot. So I thought you needed to hear that, darling. And guys,
thank you. I'm glad to hear that.
I am so excited to be on Hail and Horns because I think I was on episode 2 of Flatline to Beatline. Wasn't that right? And I will tell you, Flatline to Beatline has helped me so much. In a year, my channel has gone from about 900 and I hit 6,000 subscribers earlier this week. Uber, if you are still here and can drop links to Kindra's and Nightshade's channels, the links are in the description box of the video. So if you can drop those in the chat, I would greatly appreciate that. If you can't grab it, then I'll grab it here in just a second and do it. But yeah, Flatline to Beatline, without a doubt, helped me grow my channel and help me, expand my reach. But if you would tell me a little bit about what Hail and Horns is all about so people can get turned on to this brand new thing you two are doing together.
I'll let you do it, Kindra. You explain it.
Oh, yeah. Pass the tough questions to me. Hail and Horns, actually, we're still putting it together. Actually, we're out there just to debate subjects that a lot of others who do live streams or podcasts don't want to touch upon. We're not scared to speak our truth and expose the BS that's out there. That's maybe the main focus of it. We try to keep everything under the pagan and occult and left-hand path realms as well. But we're open to just about any topic that's allowed on YouTube that's not going to get us banned, to throw at us any suggestions. We're coming up with stuff as a show that you're going to be on with us next week, that we invited you on. As you said, we're out there to rail the rainbows and get it out there. And we want to bring back reality into the occult realms and paganism and everything, and expose the BS for what it is, and more or less let people know that it's not all fluff and glitter, and it never was. That's just how, unfortunately, it's being presented right now.
Yeah, and
you want to add to that, Nightshade?
I loved it. One of the previous episodes that you guys had was on cultural appropriation, which is another very, very touchy subject in the community right now. So, Nightshade, do you want to touch on that one a little bit?
No, I mean, essentially what Kindra said, we tackle the issues that people want to sweep under the rug for whatever reason. And these are issues that need to be discussed. We don't shy away from it. Even if it makes us kind of feel uneasy, that's actually what it's all about. And, we've only done 2 live streams, and, it's not just going to be talking about topics. Next month is a big month we're actually having, because there's Spy Fridays, it's held every Friday, once a month. We are actually having 2 shows in which we are on October 23rd. We're actually having our first roundtable where it's going to be on the women of the occult. And thus far we have Maggie Moon and Marie Ravensoul. and we're going to be discussing that. We're hoping to get Venus Satanis. All three of these women have been on my show. And then the week after that, we're actually having somebody who's in this chat right now, Alistair Nach. And I brought on Colleen, also known as the Cabinet Witch, to really go into the history of Samhain or Halloween and the superstitions, stuff like that. So it's going to be a broad spectrum. We don't want it to be a Fight Club mentality, our show, but that's how Hail and Horns came around. Was people kept messaging Kindra and saying they wanted to see a collaboration. I said, why not Axes and Horns? And she was like, why not Hail and Horns? Because Satanists and Luciferians say Hail or Ave. Heathens say Hail. We have mead horns, and they throw up the horns, as do I. So there you go, Hail and Horns.
We have devil horns.
Yep. So, and I just put the new thumbnail cover art out there for our next live thing. And that may change here and there, but it's something very classy and very Broadway-ish in a way. It just speaks volumes if you look at the art. And so, I mean, that's essentially what it is. So she's riding the coattails of my reputation. I'm riding hers and her influence and my influence. And it's all one big smorgasbord of helping each other out.
Well, that was one of the beautiful things that I loved about coming on to Flatline to Beatline. And that was trying to bring, content creators in the pagan community together, bring a little more, notice to them. They are asking Nightshade to please type in the chat so they can sub to your channel. Let me take a moment and pull up your channel.
Yeah, because I can see the chat. I can see everything in it, but there's no way for me to type in it. Okay. So there's nothing I can do with that. I don't know how to.
Just a second. Let me go over here and find you.
Or you could just type in Flatline to Beatline and I pop up. Or you could type in Nightshade and like it's spelled on the screen there, I think, and it'll pop up. And of course, you can listen to it on any platform on now 86 platforms. I'm now on Amazon Music. My podcast is out there. So, there you go.
Try that one for Nightshade. Oh, thank you, Uber. I love you so much. Uber is like my soul sister from another mister. All right, guys. Let's delve into this. Let's talk about baby witches, as they are calling themselves, and their recent efforts on TikTok to curse the moon, hex the moon. And they're talking about hexing the sun and all of the shitstorm that stirred up on Twitter and Instagram. So, Kindra, you look like you're about ready to burst, darling. You go first. What did you think about all
the more
this?
you talk about it. Oh my God, what do I think? Do people really want to know? It's not good. I basically was oblivious to all this because I am not on TikTok. I always seen it as something for teenagers, and I'm not much on many social media platforms at all. But because of the subject of this stream, I researched it, and now a lot of the weird posts I've been seeing on Instagram make sense. And TikTok in general, for those of you like me who are kind of clueless about it, it's basically short videos put to music that you could have voiceovers on or anything. And this whole baby witch thing now, from what I understand, it's teenagers. At least I hope it's only teenagers. I hope no mature witches are on there. And from what I've seen, it's mostly teenagers, and they're putting up music videos, very short, making the cult more like pop art, it looks like to me, or what is termed as insta witches, and they're just throwing out subjects to look cool and witchy. And to me, it's just feeding into the popular Pinterest witch aesthetic and fashion. It's just a fashion. It's the fad. It's like when Sephora came out with the witch kit. You know, you get your witchy lipstick with a little mini sage bundle kind of thing, and it's just marketing. It's feeding into the marketing of what witchcraft is, and really putting out a false representation of what it is to those who are new. You know, as a new teenagers, and this whole thing about hexing the moon. Like, I was reading that some actual real witches and mature witches are really angry about this, saying you can't hex nature and this is not being a witch. I myself am not angry about it. Is I'm not going to get angry something that some teeny boppers are doing for fun. And I know you can't hex the moon, and I think it's just from what I read, it's a group of four, and no one's revealing who the four are. But this started by four TikTok witches who are just throwing this out to get attention. Like, they hex the Fae, they hex the moon, and now the sun is next. And it's like, let them grab the attention they want from their little teenage peers, and let's just, like, I think people should not feed into it. I've been seeing Pagan articles about this and people making a big deal. I really don't see why. You know, we should just ignore it and not feed into it, and it'll go away. You know, maybe not the bullshit about witchcraft won't go away, but at least this little in fashion thing at the moment about it will, for TikTok.
Yeah,
That's what I gotta
I think
say.
what has to be acknowledged. I think what has to be acknowledged is that, yes, it's come and gone. It's like a passing fad, kind of like mullets. You don't want to revisit the mullet. And these individuals, we all have to remember, to play kind of devil's advocate, is that we were all baby witches. Now, whether this was a publicity stunt in itself done by practicing witches, which I highly doubt, or at least at minimum, very inexperienced witches, people make mistakes. And I clearly think it did not make witches or witchcraft look bad, as it did hit public media. You know, all the news media outlets talked about it. It was a freaking joke. I don't own a cell phone, so I don't even use TikTok, and I don't use Instagram, right? So it's a matter of, I heard about this about a day after it happened, and I believe I tweeted saying, you know, people need to calm down about this. It's just a bunch of kids doing crap. And it was really great to see the very seasoned witches, baby boomers and Gen X, like we all three of us are, and coming out and saying, just it's just stupidity. And that's essentially what it is just a stupid maneuver. And as far as the news, as far as TikTok, yes, September 20th, you can no longer install it or download it and no longer update it. But they're not saying anything as to whether your content is lost or whatever. But I did tell people last month, I had a feeling something's going to go on with TikTok and to transfer everything that they had to YouTube. And that's what a lot of people did. So as far as this whole thing, it's the mullet. It's just something that just went by, and hopefully it'll stay gone.
Yeah. At first I was like, what kind of dumbass would even think of doing something like that? And then I remembered they looked like they were about 14 years old from one of the ones that I saw, maybe 14, 15 years old. And then I remembered what dumbass shit I did when I was 14 or 15 years old, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. And I was like, well, okay, but it is what they are doing is the reason that I started my channel. Because I was railing against the witchy aesthetic channels on YouTube, that if you ever sat down and watched 3 minutes of their content, you knew that they had never done magic. They flat out say, I don't practice magic. I don't do this. I don't do that. All they do is dress up, paint their face with, you know, different color cosmetics, or wipe their faces out and do that whole witchy emo aesthetic. And that's all they do. And they're some of the most popular channels on YouTube. And they lead a whole generation of people who are actually interested in the craft down the wrong path. And that's what just frosted my ass so much about the whole thing, is that they're leading the next generation down that wrong path again. And it's down the path of the Insta witches, the Pinterest witch, people who actually have never cast a spell in their lives. And I hear that from a lot of Wiccans. And look at my face. If you're a Wiccan and you don't practice magic, you're not a fucking Wiccan. Thank you. Nightshade, just his eyeballs just about popped out of his head, because Gerald Gardner was all about the ceremonial magic, and he was all about the magic. So if you think not doing spells that you're a real Wiccan, you're not. Okay, there's one of my rails for the day. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Because I know, Nightshade, you and I have talked about like Freya Norling doing the plastic witch video and no more plastic witch, hashtag no more plastic witches. And I think this really fits in with that no more plastic witches category. What do you think?
Well, we have to look at it from various angles. I'm echoing through your thing, Paula. Yeah. So I didn't know if it would. Yeah, there you go. I don't know why, but we have to remember that everybody started from somewhere. Yes, the aesthetic witch, the plastic witch is a fucking joke. And it's embarrassing, and they're embarrassing themselves. But is it embarrassing me, who's been practicing longer than they've been alive? No, I think it's hilarious. It is truly hilarious, but eventually it will have a damaging effect. And it's our fault, Paula and Kindra. It's our fault. It's all our fault. We allowed this to go on for far too long. And I remember when we were learning witchcraft and paganism and Satanism, we had to physically get off our ass and go to the library or go read books, microfilm, all of this stuff. And it was that passion that kept us going. Now it's at the click of a fingertip, right? It's all right there. And they're believing everything that they see and hear. And unfortunately, especially if it comes from celebrities, this is a problem. And, Alistair, I will say it's actually not a passing fad, because plastic witchcraft has been going on for quite a long time. And people just thought it was nice and cool and everything, but it's our fault. And that's why I kept pushing baby boomers and Gen X, especially Gen X, to start coming out and railing against this, speaking out against it, and start teaching correct magic. And just because somebody is young doesn't mean they're, that they're wrong right then and there, because that's not true. And some of them are completely or ill-informed, because that's what they were taught. And we have to step in and say, no, this is what it's about. What I don't like is when some kid or even an adult who's been practicing 6 months tries to tell me how to practice magic. That shit is not happening. It's just like if I were to go over to Kindra and say, let me tell you all about theistic Satanism, I'm going to get laughed at and probably slapped. So these kids, cursing the Fae and hexing the moon, they're going to get theirs one way or another. And in karmic, whatever somebody wants to say, they're going to get face slapped. That's it, because I don't fuck with the Fae. I don't mess with them. That shit's dangerous. I don't have the intestinal fortitude or the chutzpah to even attempt to do that. I'd rather be, get along and happy go lucky. So these kids doing this, done.
Kindra, what do you think?
I agree with Nightshade 100% on what he's saying. And there are different fads within the fad. Because like Alistair had made a little comment there saying that this is a fad, it will pass. Yeah, but then it's going to pass into the next fad associated still with maybe plastic witches or something worse like glitter witches. I used to work in an occult shop, and I actually had a girl come in looking for spells for electric witchcraft. I thought she meant eclectic, but she meant electric. And there was something associated with actual unicorns. Like I seen it all working in these shops here in Montreal. It's like it's crazy. And I honestly believe, like Nightshade said, it's gonna come and slap them, because in the occult realms, in the ether, and I'm even speaking as a medium that connects with the spirit world. Once you let the other, I call it, the other realms or the magical realms, once you put out a vibration and it knows who you are, it comes for you. That's why I always tell people, be careful. No, it's not really be careful what you wish for, but be careful what spells you put out or what you want to dabble into if you just want to try it out. Because once it knows you, it knows your name, and not your physical name that your parents gave you, but your imprint of your energy, of your soul. It's going to eventually come out and bite you if you mess with it. Like the whole thing about cursing the Fae. If you really are cursing the Fae, if you believe in them or not, I'm sorry, these are nature spirits. They're going to get you, and they're nasty. They're nasty to people who respect them. Imagine someone just dabbling and saying they're going to curse them or light a candle against it in any way, or just saying it, just verbalizing it. You're creating your own stream of bad luck, because these things are not going to affect you on the magical level, because people are always looking for the supernatural, like, oh, I don't see anything blowing up, or there's no apparitions appearing to me. But that's not how it is. They're going to bite your ass in the regular mundane level. You're going to have a series of bad luck. You're going to get kicked out of school for no reason, or something's going to happen. You're going to lose your job and not be able to get another. Your relationships and everyone in your life is going to start turning against you for some reason. You're going to lose everything, and you won't know what's going on. And it's all going to start as a domino effect. This is how these things start. Then people tend to get sick. People get nightmares, so on. So it does bite you in the ass, and I do believe that even if it is just a witch aesthetic and a bunch of young teenagers, or even someone who's coming into it in their 30s and they're just read a book and all of a sudden they're an expert on YouTube and blah, 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 and they think, well, I'm just looking good to gather a gathering on social media, right? This is my alter ego, but it's not my real life. It's going to start to affect your real life in a bad way.
And I completely agree, because when I heard that these baby witches had cursed the Fae, I was like, or hexed the Fae, I was like, you have just stepped your toes into a big steaming pile of poop, because the fair folk are a very proud race of beings, and they do not take very kindly to people mocking them in that manner. And I hope that they would have a little bit of compassion for a dumbass kid that doesn't know what they're doing. But that's usually not the way that it happens with the Fae. And Black Flame made a very good comment. The people who do this are the prime example of the decline and demise of everything occult related. They become the forefront and the spokespeople, and we, as the holders of the flame, have to keep that lit while everyone else is holding a fire extinguisher. And
well stated.
Very well stated. Very well stated.
The fellow podcaster, which is actually a really good podcast, that Black Immersion. I think Kindra, you know who this guy is. That podcast, but the main thing is,
oh yeah, hey Damiano.
You can tell a new witch, because any seasoned witch, and I don't mean 2-3 years, I mean decades, do not do a whole lot of spell work. They'll do 1, maybe 2 a month. That's it. And when you're trying to knock out spells 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 a week, yeah, you don't know what the hell you're doing. That right then and there, anyone will teach you. It's just not a good thing. And these baby witches, back when we started doing all this stuff decades ago, because folks, you're sitting in front of 3 people that are right at 100 years experience in the craft, period. All right. And we came from a generation of you kept your mouth shut until you've been doing it a few years. Just like Paula, your paranormal investigating, did it for almost 30 years. You didn't go on an investigation for at least 6 months at minimum, maybe a year, until you learned, comparative religions and architecture, and you're learning all of these things. And I think that's what we kind of have to go back to. Yet at the same time, the older generations have a tendency of wanting to keep everything under a shroud of mystery and secrecy. And that is hurting the knowledge, not of just everyone else, but especially the younger ones, when we want to keep it all secret. Now, I can understand coven related type of things, but when you want to keep this whole thing of, we want to shroud in mystery and darkness and keep it a secret, you're only hurting the younger generations, because they're going to latch on to whatever they can get a hold of and think it's true. So again, we have to point the fingers at ourselves, whether that's Satanism or Luciferianism or heathenry or any path of paganism or witchcraft, period. We have to point the fingers at ourselves. And with the older generations coming up and doing podcasts and doing YouTube channels, we have to take this responsibility. And it's a very, very serious thing that we do. And if we don't, it's going to end up just falling apart, because, and I've said this on my podcast, on my channel before, the tides of change are here. They are turning. The patriarchy is falling. The matriarchy is rising. Witchcraft, paganism, Satanism, Luciferianism, it's all on the rise. It's as if the gods and goddesses are giving us another chance not to fuck it up again, not letting us ruin this. So either we can sit back in our little bubble and don't want to discuss issues that are vital just because it makes you look, makes you feel uneasy, and you'd rather go sit in your, cardigan sweater drinking herbal tea and eating scones and thinking everything's hunky-dory, listening to fucking Barry Manilow because you don't want to get involved. Or you can actually do something about it and put the fucking pedal to the metal and start curb stomping this shit, because one way or another, it's either going to hurt us or it's going to help us. I'm sorry for ranting.
You're allowed to rant, because that's the way we actually open eyes about something that's going on in the community. And, there is not a day that I do not get a comment from a baby witch on one of my videos. And a lot of them are very, very, keen to learn. They ask really good questions, and they really have a thirst for knowledge, because, outside my videos, I answer emails all the time from folks. I have private one-on-one hangouts to answer their questions and kind of rein them in a little bit. And Eden of Sharp Edges says, I'm a baby witch and I'm working very slowly. Always felt the calling, but acted slowly. Didn't want to rush into it and risk messing up. You have to learn and be respectful. And I think that's one of the things that I'll call it the instant age of information, you lose it, because, with me, it took me over 2 years to study to the level of high priestess in my trad. And not only that, I went on and became an herbalist. I also am a Reiki master and a whole lot of other stuff on top of that went into that. And it was a lot. I had to drive 30 miles to go to class. There were some weeks I had 3 and 4 classes. I spent more time in that town than I did in my own town where I lived. And but it was absolutely worth it. And it makes me appreciate the way that I was taught that much more now, seeing the way that people have to learn now. And, I think that it is so important that we keep, our minds open to the baby witches and let them know, listen, this is where you're going off the beaten path. And if you want to be a plastic witch and you want to be an Insta witch, then that's fine. But if you find, that little cherished nugget out there of somebody who really, really wants to learn, it just completely changes your whole focus, even as a creator on YouTube or any of the other social media platforms. So, to any of the quote unquote baby witches that might be watching or watching on the replay, don't take it that we're slapping you down. We're trying to tell you as your elders, yeah, Nightshade slapping you down. We're trying to tell you as your elders that there is a proper way to do things, and what you are doing is endangering yourself by taking the actions that you're taking without realizing what the repercussions. And like Kindra said, it's not going to come in the magical realm. It's going to come in the mundane realm, and it is going to bring you to your knees. And it may not just be this lifetime. It can be generational. It can be your bloodline, and it can be your soul for the rest of time, because that imprint stays with you. So, guys, do we have any questions from the chat about what's going on out there in the world right now? Got about another 10 minutes or so left in the live stream. You guys, do you have any more, final thoughts?
One thing that has to be said is that we have to start building bridges, solid bridges between our varying communities, as we are more worried about fighting one another and labeling. And I'm not going to get into the labeling issue, but I will say this, my father always told me and my younger brothers, stop fighting, because one day you're going to need each other. And I'm telling the people watching this, stop the bullshit fighting. Knock it off. We need to work together. We're going to need each other very, very soon, whether you believe it or not. And if we can't start coming to common ground and having civilized discourse, doesn't mean we have to agree. But if we can have civilized discourse, that's going to help so much. And if we are more worried about how we look and quote unquote gatekeeping, which is getting on my fucking nerves every time I hear it, because they want to slander people, and we need to stop pointing the finger at everyone else and start pointing the fingers at ourselves, because we are first and foremost the number one tool in paranormal investigating, in witchcraft. We are our greatest tool. And instead of slandering people, we need to learn how to develop and listen to our intuition, because without intuition, I'm sorry, you really don't have a good understanding of witchcraft itself. And that's not even getting into paganism and the roots of it. And oh boy, we can go on and on about this shit.
We can do another live stream for that one and go on and on about that. And, I want to speak to particularly Wiccans out there. Oh, Randy, thank you so much, darling. I know Wiccans tick me off because they look down their nose at other pagan religions, and it pisses me off, because I will tell you right now that Wiccan ceremonies and our rituals are so closely aligned with Satanist rituals that you better not throw any aspersions that way, because we are more alike than we are dissimilar. And Kindra, I learned that like day 2 of my teachings as a new witch. And, you know, I really get angry when we start disparaging other branches of paganism. So, you know, I want everybody to really keep your mind open and listen to the elders from all the different types of paganry. And, you know, we all have more in common than we are dissimilar. And Kindra, do you have any last words before we sign off?
Well, seeing your aim the last bit towards Wiccans and how they could be judgmental, I do want to state that a lot of Wiccans have to realize, like, research the history of Wicca. Wicca actually was put together from many different traditions and many different magical practices. So it is not just one tradition or one thing. So to be judgmental, that you can't put down someone who's practicing Norse tradition, because Wicca takes from Norse. They also take from the Golden Dawn. They take from the Freemasons. It came together from everything. It's a hodgepodge of everything. And this is classical Wicca, like eclectic Wicca, Americanized eclectic Wicca, as I like to put it, has even more brought into it, everyone else's tradition and everything. And I have been accused by Wiccans or those in the not Satanists, in the pagan community, that Satanists steal from them. And I'm like, no, not at all. But I said, look at yourselves. You're taking from everyone else. Your traditions are built on everyone else's.
Yeah. And, you know, that was one of the...
So we do have to learn to get along.
We do. We do. And, you know, we all have the goal of preserving our earth, honoring our planet, honoring humanity in general. And, you know, folks, we all have to walk this path, whether it's left-hand path, whatever path it may be. You know, God, may the gods bless everyone. And I really do thank you guys. My last parting shot is, be sure to hit up Shayde and Kindra.
You had
Subscribe
two
to their
questions.
channels.
You had two questions.
Okay.
One was from the Black Flame podcast, and another one from Spastic Monkey.
Okay. Oh, would you say that witchcraft was abused more so by the Abrahamic with parasite, with their notions and destruction of history and continued destruction thereof, or is it being tarnished more from within? I think right now, we're our own worst enemies right now, because there is a movement, and paganism in general is growing exponentially when in comparison with the growth in the Abrahamic faiths. And we've never learned how to be good to one another. And I think that's what we really need to do. And like we try and teach tolerance among mankind and races and color and religion and everything, we need to practice tolerance with each other. And then Spastic Monkey says, do y'all have any advice for writing a spiritual contract with a deity?
Okay, first of all, I can tackle so many things. Stop worrying about a spiritual contract. All right, people are more worried about pen and paper and trying to do all this. If you have a draw towards a certain deity, to make offerings, okay, you don't need a spiritual contract. This is not complicated. All right, there's no legalese of paganism. Just reach out and do that. As far as that other one from Black Flame immersion thing, look, it's actually a combination of both. We are killing ourselves within because we're nitpicking and pointing the fingers at everyone. In addition, before all that, we were burned at the stake. We were force converted. We were infiltrated, pagan tribes and of the like, and manipulated. And this is the result of it. And instead of having that brute force placed upon us, like they did, our ancestors did, they're taking more of a softer approach and infiltrating and nitpicking and using terms like gatekeeping and all this other nonsense. So I think it's a combination of both, and we need to start understanding. And mark my words, heathenry is starting to come around even more and more. And I can see it within my own heathen community of, people leaving the term focus heathen and going to heathenists, and then you have ethno-nationalists. It's bullshit. It really is bullshit, and it needs to stop. I'm seeing it in Satanism as well. I see people are trying to come in and do this whole bunch of crap in there and try to tear apart Satanism. It's all a game. We are pawns. We can either remain pawns and get played, or become the playmakers and rule the entire board. It's all up to you.
Kindra, do you want to take a shot?
Yeah. Yeah, just to throw in there, from what Black Flame Emergent has stated, or what they asked about being torn apart more by, let's say, the Abrahamic religions or from within the witch community, it's both. Like Nightshade said in the past, yes, we could easily blame Catholicism and the church in general for attacking us and making things hard for us for many years. However, in modern times, it is witches and the witchcraft communities in general that are tearing each other apart. And I'm not pagan, but I have been attacked by pagans verbally online and verbally face to face, as well as within the satanic community. It's just a shit show. Everyone's trying to be the leader or the boss. And I say everyone, the majority that tend to be presenting themselves out there, because there are a minority of true, authentic ones out there, but then you have everyone trying to rip each other off, spreading false information. There's one podcast out there right now that is religious Satanists calling itself diabolism, and then they're just not misrepresenting diabolism, misrepresenting theistic and religious Satanists, but new people looking at this and seekers, they're falling for the bullshit at first, because that's the first thing they're stepping into. So instead of us standing strong and up, we don't all have to believe the same thing or follow the same path. Like, I don't have to be pagan to be friends with Nightshade and Paula, but we all can support each other, at least those of us who are authentic and have something of value to share. And I believe it's up to us to bring down those or expose those who are spreading false information and making us all look bad and creating the negativity from within. Because then we're just going to have the Christians out there laughing at us.
Yeah, could not agree more. Guys, please make sure you subscribe to Nightshade and Kindra. Make sure you check out Hail and Horns. Be sure to look for Flatline to Beatline podcast. All of the links are in the description box. Guys, thank you so much for coming in. Love you. Thank you. Kindra, Nightshade, again, thank you so much, my friends.
Thank you for having us.
All right, guys. Thanks.
It was a privilege and an honor.
All right. In the broadcast.